Hello again, Struck. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and this is another minion setup. This time, instead of Graveborn with Spore Warden, we are using the other class, the Clawbringer with the Spore Warden. And it's not as strong as my Hydromancer, I'll tell you that. If you want a strong minion build, the strongest I have seen so far is something similar to my Hydromancer. I mean, you don't have to do it one by one, but this one is okay. This one is maybe 40-50% of the strength of the Hydromancer in terms of how quickly you can melt some bosses. And the biggest problem is that most of the damage increases go towards our Wyvern, and when the Wyvern is dead, regardless of how many Hydras, Pixies and the Mushroom Companion, how many of those Hydras and Pixies you have and the Mushroom Companion, it's gonna be falling behind by a big number. The build is solid, I hope you enjoy it, and buckle up and let's go. Let's start with the skill trees, Clawbringer and Spore Warden. On Spore Warden, I'll begin with the Spore Warden because there's less to talk about there. Kindred Heart, definitely a must-have. With 5 points we get 40% companion damage, 45% HP. Then, since I like using the action skill cooldown more often, I'd say Bounty of the Hunt is not a bad option. If you don't want Bounty of the Hunt, if you feel okay, it's a kill skill, then maybe get ability damage, it could help. Maybe put 1 more point here and 4 points there, or put 5 points there. There's even an option to put points into Bullseye if you really want that extra 50% gun critical hit chance, which will be 2.5. It's not 50% on top of your current crit chance, it's 50% of the base. So if your base, which is 5, gets boosted by 50%, obviously that's gonna be 2.5%. So it's very underwhelming, I don't like it. I think it's better off if you put the points here or spread them around there. Even this one is better as an alternative. Then we have 1 point into Medicinal Mushroom. I like that, and I think it's one of the best things about Spore Warden, and the reason why some people pick Spore Warden as a secondary class. Trio of the Hunt, top tier skill. That gets up to 10 stacks of 9% companion damage, so for 10 seconds you get 90% companion damage, stacking with this 40% for 130. And this one I have 0 points, so don't mind it, this is just a point from my mod. I wouldn't put points there because I try not to shoot my gun much and to just reload and make minions. Now, I like this fire damage for our gun and the companion. Every now and then, as I said, I would shoot, but very rare. But I like this more than that, so I put 5 points here and I put 4 points here. This is boosting the Wyvern, and this is also boosting the Wyvern. That's why I put points here. This also boosts our melee attack, but I probably use melee attack 0.1% of the time when using that build. So you won't see much gain out of that unless you rework the build for a proper melee setup. Dragon Aura must have skill, top tier skill, 20% elemental damage to you and allies, which I think includes minions of all types. Then I put 1 point into Blastamut's favor. If you think you don't need the point because your mod already gives you a point and you'd rather put the point here, that's okay. Later on I'll include in the description 2 alternative setups of how you can rework the skill points. Here we have 1 point into Firebolt, I think it's fine, it's good. I think the 1 point into Storm Breath is also nice. 32 seconds cooldown, not that great. 16 seconds cooldown, not that great, but it gives you passive gun damage and this gives you passive damage reduction. So it is not terrible, and the little bit of damage might add up. This one is a top tier skill for the Wyvern. 5 points give you 100% of Wyvern damage all the time. No need to trigger things such as this. I wish it was companion damage instead of Wyvern damage, but again, it is Wyvern. A very fun skill. I've put 2 points because I wanted to have enough points to put Trio of the Hunt to the max. So I had to make a sacrifice here. Keep in mind, this critical hit damage is nice. The critical hit chance not so much, because 10% crit hit chance, as I mentioned, is 0.5 actually, because it's 10% of the 5% base. So if I were to make it to level 3, that would be 33%, which would be 1/3 of 5, however much that ends up being. It's not much, so the crit hit chance is not why this is great, the crit hit damage is why it's great. Indomitable I like. If you think you'll be fine, because keep in mind it triggers every 120 seconds, it saves your ass pretty much in cases when it's really the end. But it's not really the end, because you have medicinal mushroom if the companion is alive. But yeah, this one is nice because of the bonus lightning damage buff and refilling your ward instantly, giving you a little bit of a breather. And then you have Storm Smite, which might not have been the best way to do this build, but I really wanted to build around Storm Smite. And that's why I chose this skill, because with this skill you can activate it. And if you feel like you don't need it to last long, you can just pull back the hammer and that 6 seconds cooldown. Keep in mind, if you have good cooldown reduction, you can probably get it to 4.5 seconds or maybe even 3, who knows. But if you let it stay there, it will trigger certain things that are on action skill while action skill is active. So keep that in mind. That's a lot of bonuses for while action skill is active. This one doesn't have while action skill is active mechanic, because you trigger it once and that's it, no duration. This one does have duration though, so keep that in mind. If you don't like this, then you can use this one as alternative. And that's pretty much the skill tree. There are alternative versions where I'm not putting the points here, I'm putting them there, or I'm not putting the points here, I'm putting them here, or here. There are options. There's options where you don't put the point here and they only go for this, or the other way around and put the point here instead. Obviously this is just some suggested skill trees. In the description of the video there will be 3 links of suggestions of how you can build it based on what your preference is. Let's talk about gear. For the melee, I like the Goblin Pickaxe because of the movement speed, spell cooldown rate and action skill cooldown rate. It's nice. I don't use melee. Very rarely, 0.01% probably of the time. But you don't need to use melee to benefit from this effect whenever the Fate Maker picks up gold. So Goblin Pickaxe, one of the best pickaxes, maybe the best pickaxe if you are not using melee, if you want a passive bonus. Liquid Cooling, an item needed for every build, ideally ×2. Like this one, 555 ×2. I rarely use the gun, because I most of the time am reloading the other guns to summon hiders, but in certain times, such as KWARTZ, you would need to do some gun damage because the other guns do shit damage. And then switching to a liquid cooling is not bad to quickly destroy the KWARTZ. And sometimes if you have enough minions, you can just switch to the liquid cooling, do a little bit of extra DPS, but keep in mind this burns through burns through pistol ammo. So you might want to pick up the upgrade in the Chaos Chamber that gives you extra ammo capacity. Keep that in mind. But again, if you get chaotic, obviously it's gonna be better. So types of guns I like suggesting. Want Not is great, with multi-headed Hydra especially. I like to have one with poison in my guns. In my purple guns I like to have one of each element. See, I have a Deodent with Frost Hydra. That's the only one with Frost Hydra I've found. That's an SMG. But you can get a Frost Pixie with a Whatnot. Keep in mind there's a Want Not and a Whatnot, not to mistake both of them. There's the Hairworm. The Hairworm I found with a multi-headed Hydra. And this one, the Fear Not, one of my viewers last night told me that this scales off of spell damage. I haven't confirmed it, so take it with a grain or a few of salt. But let's say we trust this guy and let's say this scales off of spell damage. Even then, I found this to do less damage than that to flesh enemies. And this is supposed to do bonus damage to flesh, when this is not supposed to do. And still, the Hydras from this gun Both of them are not chaotic. The hydras from this gun seem to do more damage than the hydras from that gun. I also don't know whether chaotic versus non-chaotic will result in stronger companions. But all companions, such as the pixie and the hydras, do scale off of companion damage. So keep that in mind. Other things worth mentioning, bric-a-brac with multi-headed hydras. Some people say that multi-headed hydras don't hit as often as single hydras. They have less accuracy. I haven't noticed this. To me, it seems that the multi-headed hydra only misses if the enemy is behind an obstacle, like behind the wall. They still try to shoot through the wall and obviously miss. But that can be helped regardless of what type of a hydra you've got. The knick-knack is another weapon to keep in mind as an SMG for a pixie. And there is this one. I don't have it here, but there is the Rainmaker. But I don't like the legendary Rainmaker. I'd rather use those purple guns. So the Whatnot, the Want Not, the Fear Not, which again, as I said, scales with spell damage, the Bric-a-Brac, the Deodent, did we say Whatnot? I think we said Whatnot, and the Heirloom. That's it for guns. Now, in terms of rings, you want allies rings, allies prefix, which gives you companion damage. The better this ring, the better for your companions. As a base, there are all sorts of bases. I think all of them would be nice. I would avoid while action skill is ready, because most of the time you would want to use it as soon as possible instead of keeping it ready. But just take something that gives you action skill damage, companion HP, companion crit damage, SMG or pistol reload speed would be nice. Dark magic efficiency will be nice if you are converting cold damage to dark magic. More about that in a moment. So there are all sorts of different bases you can use. For example, the shell casing is probably something you might want to avoid, because the gun will rarely be on low ammo. So keep that in mind. So yeah, I would say shell casing is probably the one base you really want to avoid, but make sure it's always allies. Obviously chaotic gives you 17.1 instead of 15, and then volatile gives you 19-point-something%. But action skill cooldown and companion bonuses is what you're looking for. Dark magic efficiency also is not bad. For the shield, I would say Master Rune. Master Rune with as much capacity as possible. It gives you companion damage, and anyone else who uses a rune shield in your party will also get that rune, and you will get their rune. Ideally something that gives you 25% maximum ward, so you can have some more ward. About enchantments, I'll be listing those later to save time. About armor, there are many armor bases. This one is not bad. Increase fire damage for each unique enemy hit for a brief period of time, so Calamity is not bad. Amalgam is okay. It doesn't have special ability, but it gives you extra stats. But here you're looking for companion damage, all damage dealt. Something like maximum ward capacity, maximum HP. Ability damage is not bad. Ability crit hit chance, not so much. Gun damage is always fine. Even if you don't use gun much, it's gonna be fine. Fire rate, reload speed, just avoid magazine size. Whatever happens, avoid magazine size. Movement speed, it's not bad, but you already get plenty from the pickaxe. You don't need movement speed for damage on this build, but melee damage and another thing you don't need. But melee damage can help increase the damage from your skill here. This one does melee damage. This scales off of melee damage and off of ability damage, so keep that in mind. What else was there? There's ones that like this converts, the corrupted plate mail converts 30% of your damage to dark damage, and that also applies to minions apparently from what I'm seeing. And dark magic efficiency is increased. This one will help you survive. What you're looking for is ideally a Cavalier armor. Cavalier is Clawbringer main, Spore Warden secondary. If you can't get Cavalier, something else that might work is Elementalist, which is Spore Warden main, Clawbringer secondary. I'll talk about skills you want to boost in a moment. This one is also not a bad one, but for this one you might want to use the Poison Taunting Mushroom passive, and again it's not that great. there is something like this. All companion damage is converted into dark magic damage. Enemies damaged by your companions take 20% increased dark magic damage for 6 seconds. This is one of the best things. In fact, for me, this would be my dream base, the Scarlet Quo. There are all sorts of quos. There is a quo that does the same with lightning, the same with fire, the same with poison, and for every element there is one quo. The Scarlet one is the one for dark damage, dark magic damage, and I think this one would be nice, but obviously you would want companion damage, all damage dealt, and maybe one more thing, such as maximum ward or maximum HP or dark magic efficiency or ability damage. Apart from that, there isn't much more to say. This one is another thing that you might want to consider as a base smart armor, and there is this one that that works for the minions. Where was it? See, there's the Mantis quote, there's the Storm quote, just to show you. You might want to even invest into a purple armor. If you can't find a good legendary, you might invest into a purple armor that boosts ideally this one. I would like armor that boosts this and this. If you find a good armor that boosts Friend to Flame, Tree of the Hunt, Kindred Heart, I think those two would be the best thing to get, because this boosts the Hydras and Pixies, not just the Wyvern. This one would only boost the Wyvern, and it's not gonna go that great. So I would say priority number 1 are those two, priority number 2 is this one, and then priority number 2.5 or 3 would be those two maybe as things to boost. This one is also actually in priority number 1, I would say, or maybe priority 1.5. And that's it for the skills you wanna try getting from an armor. Again, if you can't find the skills you want from a legendary, get a purple armor. Now I'll just talk for a few seconds about enchantments. They will be on the screen. Pause the video, read through it. I'll just talk for a minute. But basically you want things that are on spellcast, on action skill start, on while action skill is active, and you want things like companion damage increase, dark magic damage increase, fire, lightning won't be bad depending on the weapon. Frost is good if you're using a frost weapon such as this one or such as that one, it won't be bad. But overall, try not to get the same thing on twice, unless it's on pistols and SMGs. Sure, they can have the same enchantment, but make sure your equipped pickaxe doesn't have the same bonus as your spell or shield or any of the guns, so that you don't stack the same bonus, because you can't stack the same bonus apparently. And the same goes for that. Make sure your pistols don't have the same enchantment as the melee, shield or spell. For the mid ranks, if you're a new player and you don't have as many, what to prioritize first? Well, companion damage is the obvious choice to prioritize first. The type of elemental damage you're doing, such as dark, fire, lightning, obviously something worth prioritizing. Attunement will be nice to prioritize. Wisdom, no. Wisdom is the last thing you want to invest into right now. Intelligence is good to prioritize. Dex and strength, not bad to prioritize. Apparently, as we said, spell damage affects that fear not Hydra, so maybe spell damage bonuses might not be a bad choice to invest eventually. But I would say get raw stats first and minion damage, as well as dark, fire, etc. damage to the elements you use for your weapons. Poison as well, if you use poison Hydras. Do not get magazine size. If you're only gonna be playing this character, magazine size hurts your build. This 30% magazine size makes you waste 30% more ammo and run out of ammo 30% more, because you're shooting a weapon once, twice and dropping it, which gets rid of the whole magazine, and the bigger the magazine, the more you waste. So keep that in mind. Reload speed is a great stat. Maybe get it as early as you can. To help you spam those Hydras quickly. Fire rate also nice, movement speed also nice, gun handling, it's not that important for this build. Eventually you have 100 points here and 100 points here and 100 points here and there, and you would start putting points into the vast capstones or whatever, which seem to be endlessly available for upgrades. But until then, just prioritize what you need the most. To get notified when I upload more content like this one or other builds and guides for Wooter and not so Wooter games, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on notifications. As well as keep in mind there's something called memberships on YouTube, which lets you be a paying member for my channel to get access to perks such as emotes and badges made by me, as well as the option to get one-on-one tutoring for the very basics of Adobe Photoshop, Premiere and After Effects. And memberships can be cancelled at any time if you no longer wanna be a member. Thanks for watching all the way until the end. Struck up, keep it cool until next time, and goodbye.